Hello and welcome back to another episode of More Than a Business Live. My name is Mitch Case. I'm going to be your host today. I'm also the co-founder of More Than a Meal, where we help organizations strengthen their most valued relationships by showing gratitude and appreciation one meal at a time. We are on our 29th episode. And when I initially got this started, I really had these hopes of interviewing just really amazing leaders that are doing hard work day in and day out to create a space of work that people want to be a part of. And being able to do this over the last 6 months has really been amazing with just the individuals we get to have these conversations with. So I'm very appreciative of everybody that continues to tune in and watch this show live. Also want to give just a shout out to our sponsor, True Captive. They believe in healthcare that is personal and insurance that isn't complicated. So if you guys are ever wanting to learn more about True Captive or some of their leadership team, I would be more than happy to get you guys connected. You can also go to truecaptive.com if you have any interest in checking them out. So with today's guest today, I'm grateful to have him on the show. I'll welcome him into the view here in just a second as I do his intro. Uh, but I got the chance to talk with Sean just a little bit ago, and he is currently the CEO at Quality Data Systems, QDS. He started his career as a professional baseball player. Due to injury, kind of went into the corporate side of things, worked his way up into CEO in 2012. And just through our conversation, I could just tell that he is somebody that really, truly leads with transparency, resiliency, and is really committed to like enhancing that customer experience and having a very family oriented company. So I knew without a doubt that he would be a great individual for this show. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and welcome Sean to the stage. Sean, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Mitch, glad to be here, man. Excited about this.
Love it. Love it. Go ahead and tell the people a little bit about you and QDS from a high level perspective.
Yeah, man. So we're based here in Charlotte, North Carolina. We operate in about 13 states today, and we provide financial technology to banks and credit unions. So things like ATMs, things that help make the teller line more efficient. And this is a family-owned business, and we're celebrating our 40th year this year.
Let's go. Congratulations on that, Sean. I did forget to mention, if you are tuning in live to this show, go ahead. If you have any questions for Sean and I while we're going through this conversation, throw them in the comments. Also, shoot a message in the comments too, letting us know where you're tuning in from, whether that's LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're coming from and the city. We always love to kind of hear who's tuning into these shows and giving shout outs when we can. I also had to throw on my Chiefs jersey. Obviously, I'm starting to learn that not everybody likes the Chiefs anymore, but maybe I'm in my own bubble here in Kansas City. But we're just way too excited for what's to come here in the next couple of weeks. But Sean, I'm just kind of curious. I know I didn't prompt this, but I mean, do you have a team that you're rooting for this next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm a Panthers fan, excited to see Christian McCaffrey do well. So I'm probably technically pulling for the 49ers. Certainly enjoy watching the Chiefs play, but maybe I don't know what that feeling is, but I'm feeling probably what some of the others are feeling of like, man, are we getting tired of seeing the Chiefs? But man, they're fun to watch play, and I just got done watching the Kelsey thing, so see you're in your Kelsey jersey. It was a great show on Amazon.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. And I'll be honest, man, Christian McCaffrey scares me a little bit. He's the one that you guys there's a team put together. But yeah, Christian McCaffrey is a beast. But let's go ahead and jump into our show specifically. And the way that I always like to start this off is just with an impact story. So why don't you tell us maybe a personal story that you have of a time where either you or QDS has had a direct impact on maybe a team member of yours or a client or community member?
Yeah, so the first story that came to mind was when we first kicked off our ministry team here at QDS. We had an employee at the time whose wife was battling cancer, and it's like, man, we really need to do something. So it was one of our first raises where the company was going to match 100% of what the employees would donate towards this cause. It was a complete surprise to this employee who was running our parts and warehouse at the time. So it was very impactful to be able to hand someone a $10,000 check and let them
Ooh.
know that for us as a relatively small company at that time, to see the impact that that had on the employees, the tears that were flowing as you're kind of handing that check over, and just that has certainly snowballed and been one of our catapults as we've looked to have an impact to our employees in our community.
I love hearing stories like that, which just goes above and beyond what you'd ever like when you sign up for an organization or anything along those lines. Can you maybe tell us? I don't know if you saw any changes. Like it sounds like this is one of the first times that this has occurred within your organization. What kind of impact did that have? Not on just obviously the family that received the money, but your individual team members within the organization that got to be a part of, donating to that cause.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good that comes around having a family like culture, and it makes me cringe a little bit seeing on LinkedIn there's just kind of this backlash about the word family and tying that to a business. But we've grown about 3 or 4 times the size we are when we did that, and to be able to maintain that culture, it really just goes back to taking care of the people. And I think people being able to participate in that, see that they work for a company that is taking care of one of their own, people look for other opportunities to do that. And it's just a nice part of our culture that, someone's always looking out for someone else and maybe bringing a need up that maybe they have too much pride to talk about, or,
Yeah.
it really builds that camaraderie and family aspect to say, hey, you may not know this, but so and so is really struggling. Is there anything we can do to help them? And so that's really been a core part of our culture for a long time now.
So that's still ongoing as far as how that process would work. As somebody, and maybe explain a little bit kind of how that process actually does work.
Yeah, so I'm part of a group called C12, which is a group of Christian
Yeah,
CEOs.
familiar with that
That's
one.
kind of where we got the idea of business as a
Okay.
ministry. So we built a formal ministry team called Team Lionheart inside the company. We had about 5 or 6 people as a part of that team. They would meet regularly, talk about ways that we could impact the community, impact our employees. We had to make some decisions around, there are a lot of needs out there in the world, but we wanted to focus very locally in the communities that we serve. And so that's kind of been our driving force. We set out what was referred to as a BHAG, or big, hairy, audacious goal for those Jim
Yeah.
Collins fans out there. And so
Yes.
we are about 4 years into a 5-year plan of giving away $500,000. And that was very
Wow.
exciting to hit that. And now we've set a new goal to do it in 3 years. We were able to spin off and create our own 501c3 in 2021 called Lionheart Charities, that gives us a lot more flexibility around how we can have impact to the communities we serve. So we've continued to build a team here that is employee and local community focused, and try to give people some dominion over how we can help.
So you've created a nonprofit within your organization that's led by your employees. Did I
It, it's
understand that right?
it's technically now a standalone entity, even though
Okay.
99.5% of the funding comes from QDS, or our
The
company.
company.
So
Okay. Fair.
it is its own LLC, but yes, it is a 501c3 that we have a lot of direction and um, energy behind.
Man, that's fantastic. So, how do you guys, as an organization, with QDS being the majority of the funding, determine what cause you're going to go after? In a sense, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's
Okay. Yeah.
tough because there's a lot of ways you can help. Employee is probably one of our top ones to make sure that we're caring for the family.
Okay.
We've done a lot with first responders. We've done a lot with a company in town called Feeding Charlotte that is designed to take food that would be thrown out and take it to the food deserts around town to make sure that people have meals. So that's been a very positive partnership with us. Rich Armenia now is the director of Feeding Charlotte. So we've done things with breast cancer and stuff like that. So we have had a fairly broad focus, but probably first responders and feeding those around us, as well as schools and child related activities, have probably been our main pillars of service, if you will.
Okay. And is that voted on by the employees within your organization, or just more of QDS as a whole?
Uh, Probably now by this team.
Okay,
More it's been, hey, random needs have come up, and
got it.
ownership has kind of directed funds that way. But we've gotten into a more formal budgeting process and things like that. And our goal is hopefully upwards of 250,000 we could do this year
Wow.
through our Lionheart organization.
I love that. Yeah. Well, congrats on the success with that so far, and just the impact that you're going to have locally. Just speaks volumes. So that's really, really amazing, and I love that that's a piece that generated out of your organization, um, from the values that you guys have. So congrats on that. Let's transition into specifically QDS. I know the Lionheart is going to be a big piece of what truly makes that more than a business, but maybe give us some other ideas on what truly makes QDS more than just a business.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to that teamwork concept. I go back to things like really getting to know your people. We are currently launching a high potential and emerging leaders program. We're going to have about 14 or so of our employees in that program. It's been very touching to get to know people on a personal level. A lot of them have had family challenges, and so when you see people in the workplace and they may lack confidence, or they may struggle with certain things, and you get to really understand why. And well, my dad never believed in me, or I never got to hear, I'm proud of you. So that's where the impact for me is, coming from the sales side of, as I've grown up in the business. Sales is really my background, but it is now so much more exciting as a leader to pour into people and see people grow. And that's really what our focus has been. We've grown from roughly 30 people to 110 in the last like
Wow.
5 to 6 years. So we need to continue to develop our people, develop our leaders. And so that's a lot of what we have going on. And then the message is we need to be a great business and deliver great products and services so that we can have a bigger impact on the communities in which we serve. So that's been kind of the rally cry. A lot of our culture and a lot of our people are very bought into that mission and that purpose, that we're going to take all of your talents that you could take anywhere else and funnel them together to be great and serve the community well.
I definitely want to dive into this leadership program you're kind of talking about, because one of the things that continuously shows up as far as retention within organizations really comes from investing in their future in one way or another. I'm not saying necessarily going out and saying, hey, we're going to go pay for you to go get a master's degree or something along those lines, but continuing education to help them grow in that space. Obviously, you hit on some things where a lot of it can just be emotionally leading them, and others can be like tactically leading them. So, I mean, do you guys kind of have like pillars worked out with this leadership program yet? Like, what does it look like from start to beginning, and what you ultimately want these individuals to feel and know as they go through this program?
Yeah, I mean, I would say two founding principles here. One, we are very aware that people leave companies because of their manager, not because of the company. We feel like people are often thrown into leadership roles with no training. So we understand as a growing business that we need to invest in our people and teach them the skills. And so when you look at things like having crucial conversations, how do you give constructive feedback? How do you set proper goals? How do you communicate tone? So all of these things that, some would argue are soft skills is really the difference between being a good leader and a good manager, as opposed to being the boss or cracking the whip. And I think that's where a lot of people fail, is you take a great individual contributor that's got potential, you throw them into a leadership position before they're ready, and they end up not being successful and causing tension because they simply haven't been trained how to handle situations, how to lead people well, how to get to know people. So that's really what we're investing in. Is it's a lot more about people interaction, understanding motivational profiles, holding people accountable, but you got to give them pats on the back as well. So that's a lot of what the program is about. And probably the number one need from people was, how do I have crucial conversations? And it's definitely a challenge. And you throw email in and no one can read tone, and people get sideways quickly. So it's about coaching through that.
It's ironic that you say two things in there. I'm currently reading through the book Crucial Conversations. It is I'm still early into it right now, but that is definitely a space where I need to grow in my leadership capabilities. But also, I've sent those emails when I probably should have let it simmer for a couple of days before I sent it. Learned some hard lessons, but it has definitely shaped understanding. Tone can be misconstrued many times, and other times you're just acting emotionally without taking the time to think through that before you unfortunately try to crack a whip. So yeah, I could have used that leadership training probably about 10 years ago, but we'll continue that on. I really enjoy the fact because I've always had this idea that so often people are promoted into positions because they do so well in this position, and oftentimes it maybe goes into a leadership position, but they don't do so well in those positions. And you think, man, they did so well in this. How can they not go from sales to sales manager? And what I just heard you say is they might actually be a really good salesperson and they might even be a really good sales manager if we take the time to educate them, let them learn, not just throw them in there and expect everything to be perfect like it was when they were good at sales, because that's a completely different role within the organization.
Yeah,
Have
and
you
I
had
was.
experience with promoting like that and just seeing it not work out?
Oh no, no, I've never made a mistake, Mitch. No, yeah, I mean we've. I
I
have
knew you
been
were perfect for this show.
I have been guilty of promoting people too soon, not giving them the resources, and wondering why they struggle. And people, because they love the culture, they don't want to fail, they don't want to not have it go well, but they weren't given the tools and resources. And I think we understand that the jump from individual contributor to leader or manager is probably the toughest jump. It's not necessarily as difficult to go from a mid-level manager to slightly higher, because it's just a different level of responsibility, but the skills transfer. So I
Mm,
have found inside QDS we have a bunch of phenomenal doers, and so oftentimes moving from doer to coach or shower to others of how to do is really hard, because it's easier to just go, well, I know how to do this, I'm really good at doing this, here, watch me, versus truly spending the time to let the employee learn how to do it and be a coach. And I'm guilty of that as well. Like I'm one of our best sales assets, so I tend to take over and like, hey, this is my happy place, this is my
yeah.
wheelhouse, I'm very good at this, versus being a better coach. So I still think that's one of the toughest jumps from individual contributor to just manager is tough.
Well, I think it's really admirable for you guys to invest in them in that way and have an actual program for that. I think that's going to lead to just a lot of success as the business continues to grow. So, but we're going to start transitioning into you now, Sean. Obviously, you don't make any mistakes ever, so this might be a really easy piece for you here. But I always like to ask our guests, like, we have our days as leaders within organizations, but we still have to show up and serve the people that we're blessed to serve, quite honestly. So what continues to motivate you day in and day out to show up when maybe you don't have 100% of yourself to give, but you know that you're blessed to be there and to be able to serve those? So what continues to motivate you day in and day out?
Well, as I've gotten older and I'm a dad now of three boys, it's just it really gets back to my shift has switched from look at what I can do and let me look at my numbers and I was able to do a lot, to watching other people be successful. And it is like a really good high now to see someone that is trying to stretch their skills, or they're trying to do something new for the first time, or man, I'm having trouble getting my first meeting, and all this type of stuff. And to see the success on their face, and just that is what keeps you coming back and pouring into people. And I have found that to be now more rewarding than anything I can do. So the impact on people, and I take a pretty strong attempt to impact people's personal lives as well. I want them to be good husbands and fathers, or good wives and mothers. So that's what really drives me, is not just, hey, I want you to be a good employee, but I need you to be a good complete human, because I don't believe work and personal are separate lives. I think they cross over. So if I can help hold you accountable at work and teach you how to love your spouse well, that's probably going to lead to a stronger marriage, and so on and so forth. So that's part of the fuel in my tank, if you will.
This conversation has popped up quite a bit of, getting your house right can help you be more successful in the job type scenario. And so just having some real conversations with other leaders here in the Kansas City area that I admire, and just focusing in on making sure that everything is taken care of in the home before you start setting goals and all that from a personal perspective inside the business that you want to create. So as a leader within the organization, I'm grateful to hear, and it's no surprise, but grateful to hear that that is a huge priority, and you want that, and obviously, like, you want that for yourself too. And so you're gonna have to lead by example throughout your organization in those cases. Um, I was going to try and chat a little bit about maybe your personal experience in baseball and what that kind of helped you, maybe some soft skills, some hard skills, some life lessons that you've been able to take from baseball into leading an organization.
Yeah, I appreciate that question because I think there's a lot of parallels that I've been able to talk on in a number of places. But one, I played baseball where the most successful people only fail 7 out of 10 times. So it is a high failure sport. And there's a lot of film study and thinking, about how do I adjust on the fly? How am I a student of the game? How is this pitcher going to pitch me? So that's been one of the most valuable transition sets is being able to iterate quickly. The corporate buzzword is fail fast, but
Right.
things like that of how to make adjustments. I would also say work ethic. Trying to become an elite athlete and doing the extra things and getting the extra repetitions when others aren't. So that's making that extra phone call. That's can I get a couple more things done? Can I make sure that my knowledge is just a little bit better than that competitor person that's going to be meeting with that same client? So I think athletics brings a lot of those lessons. I was a captain typically where I played, so it was also about serving others, and I
Mm,
enjoyed the team aspect. So that was one thing I liked about college sports more than pro sports was it was really about the team versus the individual. So if the guy hitting two places behind me was struggling or just wasn't hitting the curveball real well, I would go back in the cage with him and throw him 30, 40, 50 curveballs and be like, man, just try to hit it that way
yeah.
because that would make our team better, build their confidence, make sure versus, well, I'm doing fine. Like you got to figure it out, dude. So
Yeah. Yeah. I got
I
to
would
make my
say
money. I can't spend time on you.
that's another lesson that has translated to business is you're really only as strong as your weakest link. So
Hmm.
always looking to raise the team and find those spots or those processes. And that was another lesson I've learned, which doesn't go back to sports, but from the owner's seat, there was years that I was really stoked about growing 30, 40, 50%. You're high five and the business is growing. And some of your people are going like, we don't have any processes for this. How are we going to onboard these people? And all of a sudden when you actually go ask people, like they're hanging on for dear life going, please don't sell any more things. So that was another valuable lesson to make sure that your processes and procedures can keep up with growth, that it's not, hey, let's grow 100% every year. We'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah. I have hearing about companies growing too fast is always like this weird thing. I'm like, how is that even possible? How can you ever grow too fast? And
It's
after
possible.
being on that side, yeah. I mean, I was focused on the sales side for 10 years, and what I was doing, it was sell, 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 and like that's what it was. But without the knowledge or the expertise of understanding, like just because I sell something doesn't mean everything else behind that is going to be just as efficient. Was definitely a lesson learned from my end and something we continue to have to focus on. So we are kind of nearing the end of the show here, Sean. I did want to show you that I hope I pronounced the name right. Shasta.
Shasta.
She says, Shasta, she says, thanks for supporting the whole person at QDS. Blessed for your leadership. So thank you for tuning in, Shasta. Sean, if anybody has questions about what you guys do at QDS or maybe wants to hear about how they can learn how to hit the curveball better, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I certainly encourage you to visit our website, which is qualitydatasystems.com. I'm also very out there on LinkedIn, so that's normally the best way to get a hold of me. So just look up Sean Farrell, QDS, there on LinkedIn. I love the platform. We love to educate, so I would be happy to engage in any way I can help.
Well, I'll also echo the fact that if you can't reach Sean, just shoot me a message as well, and I'd be happy that you guys connected with that. Sean, something we do on every single show. My wife and I want to make sure that we show our gratitude and appreciation for you spending the time on our show. So we always like to give out a meal that you can send to anybody that you would like. We just ask that you would tell us a little bit about that person and why you think they would be a good person to gift a meal.
Yeah, so this is someone I've gotten to know a little better this week, and it's one of our now lead technicians in Eastern Tennessee, a gentleman by the name of Logan Hensley. He's engaged to be married, has a little boy that looks like his twin. And again, as I got to learn a little bit more about his personal situation, like didn't have the best parental support, had booked a family vacation trying because that used to be a big deal, and his parents just kind of bailed on him at the last minute. So
Mm,
um, he's continuing to grow in our company. He loves being here. He's a beacon for our culture. So I'd like to give a meal to Logan Hensley and his family for the great job that he does and who he is as a person, and give him some confidence because he's a great young man.
I love it. Anytime I can support a fellow father out there doing it right, gives me a lot of joy to be able to support in that way as well. So we'll get connected after this, Sean, and make sure that we can get that out to him here in the near future. But Sean, I'm just going to say it again. I greatly appreciate the work that you are doing, the way that you are leading. You're an example that I want to follow as we continue to grow our business. So I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing that with our group.
Yeah, Mitch, I appreciate you having me on. It's a fun topic to talk about. It's very meaningful to my heart. So I appreciate the invite, and thanks for having me on.
You bet, you bet. Well, we will be back every single Thursday at 3 p.m. Central Time next week. We are bringing on Karen with DMS Services. Excited to kind of hear her story. She's got a lot of things going on right now here in the Kansas City area. But until next time, guys, we just really appreciate you tuning in. And we just always encourage you to continue to strengthen those relationships inside and outside your organization. Till next time, have a wonderful day.